All right, so I just wanted to start by saying, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for our 2022 LOTS External Community VP training. My name is Jessie Neighbors. I am the current admin VP for the Illinois JCs. In 2017, I was the Springfield JCs Community Vice President. I joined the Springfield JCs in 2015. I was their chapter president in 2018, and I have been on the state team in some capacity ever since. So first off, just congratulations. Thank you for stepping up to take on a leadership role in your chapter. It is an awesome thing to do, and it is not to be taken lightly. So we're looking forward to everything that you guys do this year in those roles. So as a board member, you do represent your chapter to the local community, and you are your chapter's liaison with your local community. So things to keep in mind is make it your own. A lot of us sometimes try to follow in the footsteps of the people that led in that role before us, but not everything that they did is going to work for you. We're all our own individuals. We all have our own types of leadership. So don't be worried to kind of tweak things and make it your own so it works best for you. And then also just keep in mind, be open to questions, whether that's from your board members wanting to know more, state team curious what's going on, or other chapter members. A lot of our new members are not going to have a lot of that background information on projects. So when we're running projects, they may have questions that, seem kind of silly or like, oh, we figured that out years ago when we did this, but they don't know those things. So be willing to help kind of walk them through those processes so they understand why we do things the way that we do. So to start off, we'll just kind of touch on some areas about what makes up community development. So we've got community service projects, and those are going to be things like volunteer hours, stocking local micro pantries, running different park cleanups, or the Adopt a Highway type program. And then you guys can always jump in if you've got questions on anything too. We'll have some time for questions at the end as well. But if you have questions during anything, don't be afraid to pop on and ask. So then we've also got community fundraising is going to fall into your area. That's going to be raising donations for a specific organization or service. So that could be collection drives. There's a lot of things that we've seen lately. So food, toys, clothing, school supplies, or even blood drives are popular. Or collecting monetary donations, just to be able then to provide that to those different services or organizations. So we've also got your government and civic involvement. One thing to keep in mind when going about in this area is to remember to remain bipartisan. We are a bipartisan organization. So when you're doing things like meeting with your local representatives, you want to open that up to everybody in that area. You don't want to stick to this, oh, well, I like this person, so we'll bring in them. You want to make sure you've got that full representation of all of your local representatives and the community. A good way that also become involved in civics is to attend local city council meetings. It's a great way to find out about things going on locally that maybe you weren't aware of, or things that are being voted on, some of those discussions that may not always just be out there to find so easily. And then there's also things like voting initiatives. JCI does have a Get Out the Vote, so there's a lot of great tools there that you can utilize and tweak for your own voting initiatives in your community as well. So then we also have children and youth projects. So this can be different holiday events for the youth, whether it's something, for Christmas, or if you've got Valentine's Day cards, things like that, or even we see a lot of Easter projects, doing different dances or hosting post-prom. And we've got a couple chapters that do things like the fishing derbies for kids. And then even some of those just fun and engaging contests, like a coloring contest or a snowman building contest as well. So are there any questions on what kind of falls into that area? All right, we'll move into some of the expectations for your role as a community VP. So you're going to build and oversee community service projects for your chapter. The projects that your chapter runs is going to help determine how your community identifies you. So what are they going to remember you for? What are they going to know you for? So keep that in mind when you're determining which projects you want to move forward with. You also want to make sure you're inviting other members of your chapter to be a part of the committee or to chair the project. This is a great way to engage newer members who may just still be learning about the JCs or not want to take on leadership roles, but to help them get involved and see what we do. And even if it's just some of that kind of community service work and those service hours, it still gets them involved, and it's a great way to engage. You also want to look out for other young leaders that are coming up as well. So this is a great opportunity to say, I think they would be great to chair this project. And then when you're doing those things as well, you want to provide that support. So be ready to help your project chairs when they struggle, or if and when they miss their goals. When we run projects, we all know sometimes they don't go as we planned. Sometimes things that we couldn't have expected happen, or sometimes we just don't make those goals, or we don't meet that expectation that we had for ourselves. And especially if it's your first project, that can be kind of detrimental to moving forward. So having that support and reminder that we are a learning organization, and to help them take those skills and things they developed in that project and utilize that in the next one to make sure it's a more successful project. Are there any questions on building your community service projects? All right. We'll move into community outreach. So we've talked a lot this year about advocacy and awareness. Advocacy is one of our state initiatives this year. And I thought it might be helpful just to have that definition too. So Wikipedia defines advocacy as an activity by which an individual or group aims to influence decisions within political, economic, and social institutions. So that really gives us more of that long-term perspective as well. How do we create that long-standing change within our community? And some of this you can develop by running those community needs analysis. So you can do things like handing out community surveys. Excuse me. Those can be done. I've seen them either in person. I've also seen them attached to registrations and tickets at some of those events that you purchase tickets for your chapter. Any kind of way to get that information out and get some quality responses to help you determine what projects you think your community could really benefit from. And then speaking with your local representatives is also a great way to get that information. They know what's going on in their areas and the things that their areas need or lacking and things like that. So it will really help you kind of develop a better idea of what you want to do with your community outreach. And then we'll move into community partnerships. So things to consider when you are looking at community partnerships is, do you have shared similar goals? Are the goals of your chapter similar to that other organization that's wanting to work with you or that you want to work with? A lot of our chapters have chapter plans or run the SWOT analysis. And so it gives us an idea of what our true goal is for the chapter. So take a look at those. If you don't have similar goals, maybe they're not a great partnership for you to have. Maybe it's great for a specific event, but it may not be a long-term thing. And that moves into, is it going to be a long-term partnership or a short-lived partnership? Is it something that's going to be beneficial throughout the year and moving into the next year and future, or is it going to be just for that one specific project? With these partnerships, we tend to kind of focus on those long-term ones because we can make sure in the long run it's going to be more beneficial and create more of that engagement and working together with another organization in our community. So then that moves into true partnerships versus community service. And I know this is some things that sometimes you'll have those partnerships that were really great in the past, but maybe it's kind of fallen by the wayside and they reach out to you and maybe you're not getting as much for your chapter as you used to be. So is it mutually beneficial? And then some things, because I know there are some struggles with trying to find ways to make some of those community service into partnerships or to find ways to have that true partnership. So finding ways to make it beneficial. So does your chapter have requirements that they want for people who are wanting to partner with? Are there things that they need to meet? So if they want you to provide this much manpower, this much presence, are they willing to provide you the PR or the marketing or share information, put your logo on their flyer, things like that. And then I've got one more slide on community partnerships and I'll open that up a little bit. So again, with utilizing those partnerships as well. So you can use them as recruitment opportunities. So sometimes as we move forward in different positions in the JCs, we think, oh, that's the membership. Recruitment is on the membership VP, but recruitment and membership falls on everybody in the organization. We all have friends, we all have connections that we can utilize for membership. So those partners, a lot of those businesses, some will even sponsor some of their employees become members. So those are great opportunities to create those connections and have that draw for new members as well. Other businesses may not sponsor an employee, but they may utilize your chapter for service opportunities. A lot of businesses will promote that for their employees as well. You can also reach out to these partnerships for sponsorships, depending on your level of partnership, that's kind of how much sponsorship you may get or what you want to reach out to on different sponsorships. You may not want to ask somebody that you've partnered with just here and there to be a large sponsor for your event compared to somebody that you have a regular partnership with that's been longstanding. And then also utilizing those partnerships for marketing and PR. So even some of your more local ones, like your mayor, your local news, local radio shows, school officials, your chamber of commerce and things like that, you can utilize those connections to help with your PR, to share your events and provide information about your chapter as well. So questions on partnerships? Anyone?
I guess one of them would be like,
oh, Emily, you're cutting out a bit. Try again.
Oh, no. Okay. My microphone's been weird. I apologize.
Nope, you're good now. Thank you.
Okay. So I guess one of them would be like, what would be the best way, or do you have any recommendations for how to go into those partnerships and try to create new partnerships? Like, how do you bring up the kind of get into the discussions regarding mutual benefits and that kind of stuff? Do you have any recommendations for how to start those kind of conversations with other groups?
I think some of that depends on what they're asking of the chapter as well. So that I think will help determine what your ask back is going to be. So if you have an idea, or if they say, we want you for this, you could always come back and say, that's great. These are the things we would need from you. So some of that PR, or depending on what your board and your chapter determines, they want back from that partnership. So just kind of presenting it, I think, as kind of a business plan too, saying, great, we would love to partner with you and to provide this, but in return, we need commitment that you can provide us with this. And then moving forward with that full conversation already happened. So you know what the expectations are between you both before you move forward in that partnership.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I hope that helps. I dug around a lot to try to find some more information for you on it. And I think a lot of just kind of, it came down to like stating those goals up front and saying, this is what we expect back. So hopefully that helps in that area with you. All right, if there's no other questions on partnerships, then we will touch on, there we go. The Active Citizen Framework. So you may be familiar with this term, you may not be. This is a JCI initiative. Charity is good, change is better. So these are working for some of those long-term sustainable goals with our communities. So thinking about those true community needs analysis too, like what is it that your community needs? So running that community needs analysis, determining those things. Think about your SMART goals when you're doing these things as well. A lot of the times we hear about needs being, homelessness and stuff like that, but that's not necessarily something that our chapters are going to be able to take on. So it's got to be feasible. Do we have the manpower? Do we have the funds? Is there a way to, get sponsorships or fundraise for those funds if you don't have them present to do this? So kind of think about those things and which thing you could actually make a sustainable impact on in the long term. So you're going to form that plan, make sure it's sustainable, run your project, and then measure those results. So with some of those larger needs too, you may not have been able to resolve that need immediately or in the first year. This may have to be a several year project. And if you can't run it that long, there's other things to think about too when you're measuring those results. Is the need still present? Even if it is, did you create a greater awareness of this issue in your community? Has it come to the attention of more individuals? Have other organizations begin to participate and help out with this as well? Is it something that now other people are taking action on to create that change that you were going for? So those are all great ways to measure those, even if you couldn't necessarily resolve that need. Are there any questions on the Active Citizens Framework? All right. And this stuff is all kind of short and sweet because a lot of this is I want to get into some conversation too here in a bit. Because it's really great to hear what other people are working on or what their chapters struggle with, because if you have a question, chances are somebody else has that same question or has that same concern. So the other main thing to keep in mind with expectations is communication. So we all know communication is very important. Poor communication is going to lead to a lot of struggles that you don't have to have and are not necessary. So remembering to submit a regular report to your chapter board, making sure you attend those monthly board membership meetings, providing updates for chapter newsletters and social media, and then overseeing the expectation for PMGs in your area of opportunity, so within the community area. And then just kind of a quick wrap up, and then I'll open it up to questions, and then I've got a couple for you guys as well. So main goals, determining the needs in your community, evaluating some of those projects that you're running to make sure you are meeting those needs. Advocacy and action, partnerships versus community service opportunities, keeping those differences in mind, making sure you support your members, and of course, making it your own and having fun in your role as well. And so what questions do you guys have for me? And feel free to comment on my photo as well.
My first question is, how did you guys take that?
Oh, give it a second. I think your mic takes a moment. Try it again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
This gosh dang mic. I was going to say, how did you guys take your photo?
We utilized somebody with some Photoshop skills to assist. Which is why we're a little out of proportion, but
I love it.
Thank you. Wanted to make sure I had fun with it. So Emily, do you have any other questions? I know we didn't really dig into that partnership one. So I mean, Sarah and Kylie, if you guys have any more feedback about how to go about, forming those partnerships and forging ahead to make sure they are true partnerships rather than service opportunities.
Yeah, we had in Palatine, we had a bad experience with a partnership where we thought we were partnering with someone to do a service project to clean up part of the creek that runs through Palatine. We thought we'd be planting native species of flowers, and basically they used us for 8 hours of labor, just clearing out rocks and dredging the creek. So partnerships is very important. I think having clear understandings and expectations of what that means, whether it's promoting yourself, your name somewhere, just having a clear concept of what this partnership will entail, so it's mutually beneficial, and then just taking the time to kind of grow that further. I know it's sometimes you just you might do something once and you never do it again, but just continue to have that contact and touch base. And I think as you contact and are in touch more often, it kind of naturally grows and progresses. So just something like that, just to keep in mind.
Gotcha. I'm sorry. Very sorry about your river situation. That does not sound ideal.
Thank you. Not what we thought it was going to be either.
But I mean, sometimes you have that, unfortunately, but that gives you, you're like, okay, well, maybe we didn't set those clear expectations. So maybe moving forward, we need to do that. But I think that's great input is, having those clear expectations set from the get-go and not just kind of saying, okay, well, they should assume that, they're going to give us this PR, or we're going to get this from them. All right. Emily, do you have any other questions for us?
Not right now.
Okay. Then Kylie, do you have questions for us?
No, I do not have any questions as of right now.
All right. Well, then I've got some questions for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share so that I can get my questions and not show them to you guys because they are on my presentation. Okay. So, I mean, first off, is there anything that you're unsure of how to go about in your role?
Not really. I mean, within Springfield, I feel like we have a pretty great history of community VPs. So a lot of stuff has already been passed down through the transition stuff. And I know I can always just bug you guys when little questions come up, but no major questions at this time.
And then Kylie, could you remind me what chapter you're from?
I'm from the New Baden JCs.
Awesome, great. I'm glad to see some Region 5 on here too. Yay. So I mean, is there anything that you're not sure how to go about in your chapter? I know you guys have had some pretty strong community VPs in the past as well.
Yeah, definitely. No, luckily I've got some really good board members and senators to help us out. So I don't really, if I have any questions, they're really good at helping me and keeping me on track with everything.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. Having that support is very useful throughout the year for sure. So then other questions for you guys. What projects do your chapters run currently or in the community area?
Kylie, you can go first on this one.
Yeah, I
feel
got a
like I've
couple. I'm
talked
going to
too
make you
much.
guys talk. I'm sorry. We're going to get something good out of this. I promise.
So community projects.
I mean, I
I
know
mean,
you
we
guys did a
do-
lot last year too with even,
Yeah.
was it like the stockings at the manor and.
Yes, we do plan on hopefully doing that one again this year. We'll also be doing June Jamboree this year as well. That's a really big one for us. I can't think of anything. Oh,
Are you guys doing the Easter again this year also?
yes, we are. We are planning on doing that on April 9th this year. So I'm really excited about that one. And then we do have as well a disc golf tournament coming up in later April. Maybe it was March. Don't quite remember, but
Yeah, I think it was April. I believe I saw that. I think it said April.
yeah, we've got a lot of good things going on. So
And then are a lot of those going to specific kind of organizations and services or, excuse me, or are they kind of a more general fundraising for community or?
So in June Jam is more of a general fundraising. Ice cream at the Easter Bunny. I can't quite remember where we stick the money for that one, but I know that for the disc golf tournament coming up, that is going to an organization for, I believe it is suicide awareness. Yeah.
Nice. I haven't seen many projects related to that. So that's great. I think that's awesome. Emily, what about your chapter? What do you guys run?
Okay, so we are working to start an Easter project. We just found a tentative chair, and it's actually an exciting opportunity because it might be helping us make another community partner out of a nonprofit who is also looking to do a community Easter project. So we're excited about the possibilities with that, but that's not one we've historically done. Other than that, we have our downtown fireworks that we do. We have an ongoing partnership with our HSHS Children's Hospital. We kind of started that back when Pat was president, and our members really like it. So we're just continuing that, and we're hoping to really strengthen that and really utilize HSHS and their resources for that PR aspect, because they do have a great reputation in the community, and they are definitely a group that we would love to utilize their workers and their resources. So that's a really good partnership for us.
And then we also have like we have JC Park in town, so we have some cleanup projects with that. A partnership with another local group called EcoFluent, where we are working on like some pollinator gardens and fruit trees. So right now, those at least are the primary things I'm focusing on. I know those off the top of my head because I just did my board report. So at least that's the first half of the year focus.
Well, and Emily, I know you kind of switched up your focus a little bit after the last GA for the year too, to do a little bit more of that civic engagement also. Would you mind kind of touching base on that for a little bit?
Yeah, so my original focus for the year was, over the years, we have a lot of groups that come to the JCs for volunteer activities. So I really wanted to solidify what a community partner looks like for us, and how to kind of rebrand the JC's name in the community to get us to be known as more than just a group you call on for volunteers. But after the last GA, between some of the speakers and just one-on-one conversations I had, I really realized that we are a very small group compared to how large our community is. So I'm kind of setting up some meetings with our different aldermen, who we have 10 aldermen who represent different areas of our city. So I'm setting up meetings with them just for our chapter to learn more in detail about the areas they represent, both like the strengths that we should play to, like up and coming businesses or other young leaders they noticed in their area, along with the struggles that their areas face and maybe different projects that the JCs can get involved with and kind of help in different areas, because we really do have like our 3 little pockets of the town that we tend to meet and do things in. So just really trying to expand us and get a better feel for the community that we're serving. So that's kind of how I shifted the focus after one GA. Y'all had to bring in some good speakers and trainings and stuff, and made me completely pivot my year, but that's okay. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great kind of new approach to take, especially like you said, you know, we're kind of a small group in Springfield, and it is such a large city, and there's so much else going on that we don't always know about. So having those meetings, I think, is going to be really helpful with that true community needs analysis to determine, you know, what can we do that we're not doing. All right, and then I'm curious if there are projects that maybe you guys have run in the past in your chapters that no longer fit community needs. You know, are there any that you've kind of had to reevaluate to determine if they're really still a good fit in your community?
Feeling a lot of pressure with you on the call right now as I try to scrape through every project we've run, at least since I've been here.
It doesn't have to be all of them, but I mean, you know, if there's anything that comes to mind, or, you know, some type of community thing that, you know, used to be done a while ago, or maybe you just don't have the means to anymore, but would like to see it come back. I'm just kind of curious. And Kylie, this is you as well, so feel free to chime in on this.
The only thing I can think of, like off the top of my head, is for a little bit we were doing the our pie in the face fundraiser to raise money for the local food bank, and that one kind of fell off just because we didn't have chairs step up. So that was kind of a mix between, there was a shift with COVID and different needs arising, and then also we've shifted into if we can't get a chair for it, we kind of determine that it's not something our membership really wants to take on. So we don't want to force that project. But that was definitely a fun fundraiser that we started out doing for a community need that we do not anymore.
Thank you, Emily. Kylie, are there any that you guys have done in New Baden that you maybe don't do anymore because they don't fit the needs, or, you know, maybe all the shifts in COVID, or, you know, like Emily said, they didn't have some chairs? So Are there struggles that you guys have had in that area at all?
Not that I can at least remember. I'm still pretty young as a JC. So the only thing that I can really think of is that we used to do chicken and beer dances. And that just kind of got more pushed to the side by our other projects. So we decided to let that one go. But I feel like maybe that might be something that we bring back, just because with COVID and everything, everybody just wants to be out of the house now and have something to go do. So I think that I might take a look at bringing that one back in.
Now, do you know if those went to like a specific organization or if you guys kind of split it up or
No, I,
not sure on that? That's
yeah,
fine.
I'm not sure on that one. I've lived in Maine all my life, but I haven't really ever thought too much about what the JCs actually do. So, yeah.
Well, now you are, and you're getting involved and stepping up, which is awesome. So you're going to learn all about it.
Yeah, I am
And
so
we're here to
excited.
help. We're here to help. And then, so just a little bit of else to think on and, kind of touch base on is, are there projects that you guys would like to develop in your local communities? Are there needs that you've noticed that aren't being filled already? And, even if we're thinking large scale here, what are some of the needs you've noticed or projects or things you would like to see?
That's like an impossible question because I dream so big and I'm like, yes, we can fix this entire community. But when it comes down to it, I definitely think our chapter could do a little bit more when it comes to our homeless population and aiding them in some of the things that they need. That is I feel like that's the one thing that constantly comes up in our different meetings with city officials. They're like, homelessness is our biggest issue in the city and blah, blah, blah. And it's not something that we can solve. But I think doing like an active citizen framework to try and help with some of the smaller needs of our homeless population could be really beneficial to those individuals and also to our chapter members. And then I also would really like to do some additional projects with like mental health outreach and that kind of stuff. But a lot of that is on hold until I can get through setting up stuff with all of these aldermen because they're kind of taking my preference right now. So maybe I'll get to be community VP for 2 years and actually achieve some of this.
You will achieve stuff. That's the thing about some of the roles. It's like once you finally get comfortable and are like, okay, I know what I'm doing. It's like, and the year is almost over. But I think those are some great ideas to think about, especially with the homelessness, saying, I know it's not something that we can tackle in whole, but how do we break this down to something that we can do and that we can have an impact on? I think that's a great way to think about it. Then Kylie, what about you? Are there any needs that you've noticed in your community or ideas of, new projects and things that you want to do this year?
So, I have noticed that for younger kids, before you get into middle school, there really isn't too much to do here since we're so small. So I was hoping to maybe start some projects to do some like after school activity type things, because there really isn't anything to do until you get into middle school, and then you've got sports, and it's sports up until you graduate, and that's about it. So yeah, it's just, I really don't want kids to be bored. I remember thinking, wow, this is so boring all the time when I was a kid until I started doing sports. So I'm hoping to start some type of after school activities or clubs or something that these kids can do.
I think that sounds like a great idea. Do you have any kind of things in mind, like what you were wanting to do, like arts and crafts or like outdoors stuff, or obviously maybe not sports since that's something that is available once they get a little bit older, but.
Yeah, I was thinking something more maybe towards like arts and craftsy type things or even outdoorsy, because with us being in the middle of nowhere and cornfields and woods, there's plenty of stuff that we could do. And then I work for outdoor recreation on the base at Scott. So it's given me a lot of ideas about outdoorsy things that kids can do to help them stay fit and things like that as well, that really like aren't expensive at all, like cost nothing.
No, that sounds awesome. And I mean, and that's a great way to, not have to worry about if these people that want to participate are going to be able to afford a cost, because sometimes costs, transportation, or if there's younger siblings and after school care, that kind of all comes into play as well. So I think those are some really great ideas. I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. I think that's going to be a lot of fun for kids.
Yeah, me too. I'm hoping.
Well, I want to say thank you guys for attending tonight. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I know it was kind of just the basics of things. So if you do have any questions, reach out to me or any members of the exec team. We're always here to help. And then just also kind of keep in mind if there's ways that the Illinois JCs or JCI USA can help you. We do have the foundation, and so that you can apply to grants. Those are for community projects as well as personal skill development projects. So things to keep in mind with that, if you raise funds that you're donating, sometimes they'll match funds and things like that. So if you have any questions about any of the foundation stuff, applying for grants, just anything in general, feel free to reach out to us. And again, thank you for attending tonight. I appreciate you taking the time out of your evening, and have a great rest of your night.